Okay, good morning. We're learning Maseches Eruvin, chapter 8. The name of the chapter is Keitzad Mishtatfin, and we're holding it page 83. Baita cited which applies the loaf criterion of the Mishnah to yet another case of Torah law. Tana, chatzi chetzel tamatumas echlin. Half of half, or of half, an eighth of it, of the loaf discussed by Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon is the minimum quantity required to render other foods tameh with food tuma. So, eighth of the bread of the loaf discussed by Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Shimon, and if you look at the number 1, it goes through the whole amount of Rabbi Yochanan's loaf is six beitza, so that eighth of it is 3/4 of beitza. Shimon loaf is eighth of anyhow, but this is the amount, is the minimum quantity required to render other foods tomei with food tuma, to transmit tuma. But our Tana, the Tana of the Mishnah, why does he not teach what is the minimum measure for food tuma, for food to transmit tuma? Mishum delo shavu shiur ladade. Because the quantities are not in precise proportion to each other. Inasmuch as the smaller quantity for food tuma is not exactly half of the large one for rendering the body pasul. The Gemara adduces Braito to ascertain the exact value of the respective quantities and demonstrates that they are not in proportion. The Tanya, Kama Shiur Chatzi Pras. What is the quantity of half pras? Half pras is an amount. How much is a pras? So it says in the notes that pras is the half loaf that serves as criterion for minimum quantities as stated in the Mishnah. Then you have to figure out how much is exactly a loaf. But pras is half loaf. So, which is the minimum for rendering the body pasul? So if a pras is half loaf and and it says over here half a pras, so it's half of half. Bet beitzim chaser kima, the volume of 2 eggs minus an insignificant amount. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef, bet beitzim so chakot, the volume of 2 large, loosely measured eggs. Shir Rabbi Beis Beitzim ve'oid. Today you go to the store, you have medium, large, extra large eggs. Over here it's speaking about large, loosely measured eggs. That's according to Rabbi Yossi. Shir Rabbi Beis Beitzim ve'oid. Rabbi measured and found the 2 egg volume quantity to be actually the volume of 2 eggs plus. Kama ve'oid, how much is plus? Echad me'esrim aveitza, 1/20 of an egg volume per egg volume. The full quantity of the half pras is 2.1 egg volumes. That's what it boils down to. What is half a pras? 2.1 egg volume. The Gemara has defined the half pras precisely. Now a Baisa establishing the exact quantity for food tuma is cited. However, concerning food tuma, a Baisa teaches Rabbi Menashe Amitay Rabbi Menashe Amitay said, the exact value of the egg volume, which the sages stated as the minimum quantity for food tuma, is like egg itself, as the volume of an average egg with its shell. But the sages said the egg volume stated to be the minimum quantity for food tuma is only like the egg itself without its shell. When one compares the minimum quantity for food tuma with the various values assigned to the half pras in the first baita, one finds according to all of the stated opinions, that the former is not exact half of the latter. This supports the claim made earlier that our Mishnah omits mentioning the measure for food tuma because it is not an exact half of the quantity for rendering the body pasul. They did not reach the exact amount, and that's why they did not mention it. The Gemara cites another opinion as to the value of the half pras. Amar Rav Fram bar Papa Rav Chida Zudi Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yossi Aval Chacham Roim Kabetz Omer Sashecha Kois Uman Chacham Rabbi Yochanan Broiko. So what is the second opinion of how much is half a pras? What is the volume of half a pras? So it says when one calculates the half pras using the standard loaf of bread, what is the, remember we said the pras is half a loaf of bread. What is the standard loaf of bread? Say normal bread, 10 inches, right? So he writes, when one calculates the half pras using the standard loaf, define Rabbi Yochanan, the results will be 1.5 egg volume. So we have two measures so far, 2.1 or 1.5. Pshita, the Gemara says the assertion of Rav Fram that according to Rabbi Yochanan the half pras is equivalent to 1/2 egg volume is obvious. The Gemara answers Shochakas also Rashmuinan. Rav Fram's statements comes to teach us that eggs volumes which are not standard, against which the half pras is measured, are ample, loosely measured egg volumes. K'atar of Dimi Omar Shigir Bunyus Rabbi Mudia the Kundis Demin Enusa. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he related the following: Bonius once sent Rabbi a kundas, which means he sent him a seah, measure of nusa. It says in number 12. What is these names? The text reflects Rashi and his version of the Gemara. Mundia kundasa demin nusa. It's referring to a measure. Kundasa, kundas, the name by which the specific measure was known. Demin neusa of neusa. Neusa is the origin of this measure. So it's certain measurements, and they come from a specific origin. Like in America, you go by yards. You go by in Europe, you go by by meters, kilometers, and so on. Centimeters. So what is he trying to tell us? Rabbi Mosun Sheva Esrim Bein, and Rabbi measured it and found to have 217 egg volumes. 217. So that's the seah measure. Seah, according to Rabbi, he measured 217 eggs in a seah. By me it says 17. V'shir Rabbi Mosun u'shva esrei. Shva esrei is 17. The Gemara explores the reason for the extraordinary large seah measure that was sent to Rabbi. The seah measure, from where was it? To which type of seah measure did it belong? Boris Kufmem Daladavia 144. If it's from the desert, Boris, desert type of seah, it's 144. Yerushalmis, it's coming from Yerushalayim, it's 173 Havia. The Tziporis is 207. Tziporis is Raz Havia. Okay? So the measure examined by Rebbe was too large to fit any known genre of seah measure.
Big chickens.
So it says, how is it possible that Rebbe was so out of the ordinary measure? See, all these places, Midbar, Ushalmi, Tzipori, none of them is reaching 217. The biggest one we reached was 207.
Actually, small chickens, because more quantity of eggs means
no, but say
small.
Normal eggs, eggs, but 200. You have normal eggs, but the seah that he measured had 217 normal eggs in it.
Okay,
that's it. So it's the same eggs. It's just that he measured the seah to have 217 eggs in this seah. So the Gemara says, "Lo'elam the tzipor is really Rabbi measure was a tziporian is from Tzipori. In order to resolve the discrepancy, an extra 10 eggs in the size of the measure, take the challah, which one is expected to separate from a seah flour, and add it to them, to the sum of 207. Okay, so we're adding a challah to 207. Take the challah, calculate, and add it to them. Now we're adding 207, we're adding challah, which is probably another 10 eggs. That's how you reach 217. The Gemara examines the arithmetic in the suggested solutions, and finds the discrepancy still too great. He says, how many egg volume does the challah amount to? 8 egg volumes. If one adds the challah to 207 egg volumes of the ordinary tzipori seah, the total is only 215 egg volumes. And the original difficulty remains, akte botzarle still falls short of it. So even if you add challah is only 8 egg volumes, and you still have a discrepancy of 2. Rather, take the supplement amount of egg volumes which are contained in the standard seah of Rabbi, added to it the sum of 207 egg volumes contained in an ordinary tziporian seah, and the result will be a measure containing 217 egg volumes, identical to the measure sent to Rabbi and examined by him. So take the supplemental amount of egg volumes which are contained in the standard seah of Rabbi, added to the sum 207, and you get to 217. 21, it says, Rabbi, in a bite aside above, had calculated this supplementary amount to be 1/20th. Yeah. If one factors in the supplemental 1/20th for 200 of the 207 egg volumes in a tziporian seah, the result is 217 egg volumes, the exact number of egg volumes in the measure under discussion. So there's supplementary amount, 1/20th, and if you have that supplementary amount, you get to 10 egg volumes, which would lead you to exactly the amount that Rabbi came up with. So the Gemara says, 1 second, if so, standard measure instead of being smaller is larger than Rabbi's measure, if one factors in some fractions which have been disregarded in the calculations made until now, the standard tziporian seah runs out to be larger than Rabbi's measure. Turns out to be larger than Rabbi's measure. The Gemara answers, since the excess amount does not amount to an egg volume, one does not take it into account. And this is interesting because how do we get to all these measures? Why do we get to all these numbers?
I was thinking the same thing, but I realized we're coming about the techum.
Right, how much food you have to put in the plate, right?
Right, that's
so we said mozen shtei sudos has to be food of 2 meals. Yeah. How much is the meal? The Shabbos meal greater than a weekday meal, or weekday meal greater than Shabbos meal?
Usually we say we eat more on Shabbos because it's more of it's a mitzvah to eat more.
Right, but there's an opinion that says that during the week you eat more.
Okay.
I think that I eat during the week more than Shabbos.
Yeah.
Tell you what, because on Shabbos you don't eat breakfast. You usually eat only at lunch and late lunch. So you eat at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then probably you don't eat the whole day.
Yeah.
So you eat one meal a day.
Yeah.
I have a snack in the morning. Cereal.
A snack is not food.
A little cereal.
I don't have it, but let's say you do even I don't know if it's not the big bowl, then it's
Not
not.
a big ball. Just to keep me
So
going.
Shabbos you you eat Friday night.
Right.
Okay, so you eat supper. It's like supper, fine, but a few more salads on the table. That's what makes it.
And you listen during the week. Maybe you don't make a muzzy during the week.
Right. But really, it's supposed to be that you eat Suda Shlishis, but Suda Shlishis, most people eat a very small meal. So it's not necessarily that we eat.
More.
Well,
Oh.
we used to have this.
In the
Maybe
meal,
in the
I
meal
think.
itself.
In the meal we eat more.
Yeah. But overall, I mean, it depends. I'm sure some people are maybe snacking throughout the whole day and then they eat and eat and eat. But Shabbos, short Shabbos is for sure not.
Yeah, now we're getting here early. It's,
If Shabbos ends at 6, then you're eating Shabbos by 2. You're not eating it until 6.
Yeah. Sure.
Martin is 7:05 or something.
So now we said before that Saya Ushalmis, right? Didn't we say Saya Ushalmis was 173? So 173 eggs. What is a seah? So you said, well, it depends. Each place has its own measurement for a seah. So Yerushalmis, we learned is Kufayin Gimel. It's 173. So the Gemara says, Seah Yerushalmis Teramid Borishtus. We said the Yerushalmis is 144. What's the difference between 173 and 144? So he says, 29 is the number, but shtus in the Gemara's language, or in the Gemara's measurement, it says the Yerushalmi Seah is larger than the desert Seah by a sixth. I guess if you do the cheshbon, it comes out as sixth. And Vishal Tzipor is Yerushalmi Shtus. And how much Tzipor is more than Yerushalmi? Tzipor was 207. Yerushalmi is 173. So what's the gap between them? So it says shlish. So one is both exceeding one, exceeds the other by shtus. So Tziporis Yeter Amid Boris. Now, if you compare Tziporis to Midboris, Tziporis was what? We said 207, right? 207 is Tziporis. Yeah, Tziporis. No, yeah, 207 Tziporis. Raz. Now, how much is Tziporis more than Midboris? Midboris, we said, is 173. 207 to 170 to 174, Kuf Mem Dalet, 174, you have Shlish. Okay? By a third. The Gemara says a third of what? Shlish Deman. If is it said that the desert, the difference between the two Seah measures is a third of the desert Seah, then let us see how much is a third of the desert Seah, 48 egg volumes. But the axis of the Tziporian Seah over the desert Seah, the axis of the Tziporian Seah over the desert Seah is 63 egg volumes. The Gemara concludes that the third is surely not calculated on the basis of the desert Seah and explores another interpretation. Ve'ela, shlish de Yerushalmis. Rather, let us assume that the difference between the two Seah measures is a third of the Yerushalmi Seah. Shlish didach ha'ma'aver chamshin usamna nochitil. So, how much is its third? A third of Yerushalmi Seah, 58 egg volumes minus 1/3. Ve'ilo odfa shitin uslas. But the axis of the Tziporian Seah over the desert Seah is 63 egg volumes. Somebody asked if just yesterday they asked me what is the origin of mathematics? Where does it start? And if it has a source in the Torah, and you see how much mathematics goes into primarily is the calculations of the cycle of the moon, and when is the birth of the moon, and what is the speed, the cycle, and so on.
You look at the Rambam on the Chachodesh, unbelievable.
Right. Ve'elo d'tzipor shlish dido kama v'shavin nechi chado. Didn't we learn also, like probably a week ago, about the circle and the square, and the pie?
Right.
Perimeter.
Yeah. All that, right. And I don't know if this is it must precede the Greeks. 'Cause
Right.
The Greeks were big in that.
Well, rather let us assume that the difference between the two seah measures is a third of the tzipor. In seah shlish dido kama v'shivin nechi chado, how much is its third? 70 egg volumes minus 1. Ve'ilu odfa sag, but the axis of the tzipor and seah over the desert seah is actually 63 egg volume. Consequently, the tziporian seah exceeds the desert seah by close to a third of itself. And a third of itself is close to 1/2 of the desert seah. Ravina raised an objection to Rabbi Meir's interpretation. Does the Baisa then say close? What does it mean? It says, although Ravina himself, in 31, it says, although Ravina himself later suggested an interpretation that takes liberties with the text of the Baita, nevertheless he objected to Rabbi Meir's interpretation because he felt that the Baita certainly did not intend to give approximations which were so far off the mark. Approximations so far off the mark. Consequently, a third of the tziporian seah, which has been augmented with the supplemental amount of egg volumes in the standard seah of Rebbe, exceeds half of the desert seah by a third of an egg volume. With the tziporian, the baita means a third of the tziporian seah with of the desert, it means half of the desert seah, and a third, it means a third of an egg volume. So over here, up to now, they're trying to figure out exactly what the discrepancy between one measure and the other. Tzipori, Midbari, Yerushalmit. The Gemara says, Tanu Rabbanon, Reishis Ariseiseichem, the first of your dough, Torim Utruma Lavai. That's the posik, right? Parashas in the book of Numbers, chapter 15, verse 20. Torim Utruma. The first part of your dough, the challah, shall you separate as truma. So the mitzvah of a Foshas challah. Apropos to Friday, those who make challah, now it's the Foshas challah. Kedei Aiseiseichem, the superfluous possessive pronoun, your, Reshis Arisoiseichem. You could have said, Reshis Isoiseichem Torim Utruma, the first of your dough. Arisoiseichem, your dough, what does it come to teach us? Implies that the dough from which one must separate challah is as your doughs. And how large are your doughs? Are the doughs of the desert, meaning there are a certain amount. If you make under a certain amount, you don't have to do a Foshas challah. Foshas challah only kicks in once you make more than a certain amount.
I think it's 43 eggs.
Yeah, so
43 eggs, I think.
in actual amount of flour, it's probably, if you do a full bag of flour, then it's the mitzvah of a Foshas challah kicks in. So it says, now how much is the isa of the midbar? As large as the doughs of the Jews customarily prepared during their sojourn in the desert. How much? What was the size of it? So it is written in pasuk, and the omer is 1/10 of the ephah. The ephah was equal to 3 seah, so that the omer had consequently the size of the desert dough was 3/10 of a seah, 43 and a half eggs. It says, Rova 6 beitza. A beitza is an average chicken eggs. Consequently, 3 seah is 18 kav, 17 rova, and 432 beitza. A tenth of this is the size. So Asir Saifa, the tenth of 432 is 43 and 1/5. How much is now 43 and 1/5 of eggs
In the,
to flour? In flour, right?
it's 6 halot at least.
Or the volume of the dough with everything that is in it. So from here, the sages, derived the following: Zayin revoim kemach ve'od chayvus bechaloi. A quantity of flour containing 7/4 of a kav plus a fraction of flour is subject to the obligation of chalash and vav shel Yerushalmis, 6 Yerushalmis rovas, she'en heishel tzipori, 5 tzipori rovas. Mikan amru ha'echel kemid hazaru borim veroch. One who eats as much as this measure, as the minimum quantity specified for challah, is healthy and blessed. Yosel can ravtan, if he eats more than this, he is considered a glutton. Pochos mikan mekul kabameh. If he eats less than this, his innards, his digestive systems are defective. So, what is the amount that he is considered healthy? If you look at number 7, it says he is healthy because he has eaten sufficiently, that the daily manna portion was this size, indicates that it is sufficient amount of food for a day. It is just because scripture remarks about glutton, the stomach of the evil shall suffer want. By inference, one can derive that the stomach of the righteous shall be blessed. The Mishnahs at the end of the previous chapter and the beginning of this one discussed the procedure for making an Eruv or Shituf and other related topics. The rest of this chapter will discuss various laws of Eruv. Anshe Chotzer, Anshe Merpeses, the resident of a Chotzer and the residents of a gallery. You can look at the diagram to see the gallery. Who forgot to make an Eruv, so the carrying between Chotzer and gallery is prohibited. The question now is which area belongs to the Chotzer and which to the gallery. Whichever area that is 10 tfachim high above the floor of the Chotzer belongs to the gallery. Whichever area that is elevated less than 10 belongs to the Chotzer. The guiding principle here is that an area shared by 2 other areas is considered to be the province of the area to which it is more accessible, even if they are not
contiguous. Like, bordering on each other.
Butting to each other, right?
Yeah.
The embankment of a pit.
Bankman.
Yeah, the embankment of a pit, of a rock, which are 10 tfachim high above the floor of the Chotzer, belongs to the gallery. But if they are elevated less than this, they belong to the Chotzer. Usually, chulya saboyer is when you look at a pit, they put something around the rim of the pit. Sela and
If you go like to Lake Okeechobee, right? They like going to the west. You see they have this big thing that protects the water from coming out. But
yeah, this Lake Okeechobee goes all the way to the Gulf, no?
No, it's
Which river? There's a river that goes all the way to the Gulf.
Yeah, there's a river that goes from the lake out. And then there's another, it's a park, I can't remember, I was at the park years ago.
No, but isn't a river that goes from Okeechobee to the Gulf?
Yes, there's one river that goes there, and there's one river that goes to the Atlantic, and that's.
Oh, maybe Lake Ikapachi, something like that.
All right.
Some name. Weird
Anyway,
name.
that's where they get this. I mean, I don't want to go off the topic, but that's when they get this the growth of this stuff that stinks, the red tide or whatever it is, the tide. I don't want to go there, but it goes to that. St. John's River is on this side. It goes to Port St. Lucie.
Ain't no saint.
Right. Well, whatever. That's in it. It goes to Port St. Lucie and over there.
Right. So.
Another one. I made two mistakes there.
Yeah. Anyhow, so it says regarding which case was this ruling said regarding an area which is close to the gallery. But regarding an area which is distance from the gallery, even if it is 10 tfachim high, it belongs to the chotzer. And what is considered close, whatever is not 4 tfachim away. Okay. Let's see, the Gemara will tell us what the Mishnah is, what the Mishnah means. It is obvious that where a given area is readily accessible to the resident of one neighboring chotzer through a portal, and also to the other neighboring chotzer through a portal, meaning the access to the chotzer is through a portal. This is analogous to a window that is between two chatzeros, regarding which it is assumed that carrying between the window and either of the two chatzeros is forbidden. Since the window is readily accessible to both chatzeros, it is equally in the province of both chatzeros. Similarly, in the case described here by the Gemara, carrying between the given area and any of the two chatzeros is also forbidden. The Gemara introduces another case which has been bearing on.
Which has bearing on the theme.
It has bearing on the theme. It is also obvious that if a given area is accessible to the residents of one neighboring chotzer only by the means of throwing an upward motion, and also to the other neighboring chotzer only by throwing. This is analogous to a wall that is between two chatzeros, regarding which the Mishnah rules that carrying between the top of the wall and either of the two chatzeros is forbidden. Lowering something to the, meaning it is also obvious that if a given area is accessible to the residents of the neighboring chotzer only by means of lowering objects to the area, so you are in one chotzer and you need to get to the other one, or you are from the window lowering an object only with a downward motion, and also to the other neighboring chotzer only by lowering. This is analogous to a ditch that is between two chatzeros, regarding which it is evident from the Mishnah on 78b that is considered a place apart from either of the two chatzeros. It separates, and it is thus forbidden to both. The Gemara has until now discussed cases relevant to the Mishnah. It now introduces a number of situations analogous to cases decided by Amiroim. It is also obvious that if a given area is accessible to the residents of one neighboring chotzer through a portal, but meaning there is an opening, but the other neighboring chotzer only by means of throwing objects onto the area, the only access that you have is by throwing with an upward motion. This is analogous to the statement of Rav Baravuna in the name of Rav Nachman, that the area belongs to the chotzer that has access with the least effort. In this case, it is the chotzer that has access through a portal. The Gemara introduces yet another case to clarify the concept under discussion. One has access through an opening, through a portal, and one has an access through lowering objects. Shilshul is to leshalshel, to lower something with a downward motion. I know the Rav Shizvi Amar Nachman. This is analogous to the statement of Rav Shizvi in the name of Nachman that, as in the previous case, the area belongs to the chotzer, which has access with the least effort. The chotzer that has access through a portal. The Gemara presents a case which there is disagreement where the middle area belongs. One has access through lowering and one has access through throwing. Rav said both of them, both chatzeros are prohibited to carry to and from the given area. Shmuel said, we award it to the chotzer that has access by means of lowering. So lowering takes precedence over throwing. One has easy access, one has difficult access. Whenever you have a situation when one chotzer has access to it with difficulty, and one chotzer has access with comfort, with easiness, at ease, and one has difficult, we give to the area that is easy. Resident of a chotzer and residents of a gallery and forgot to make an eruv. We learned in the Mishnah, whatever is 10 tefachim high belongs to the gallery, and whatever is less is the area that belongs to the chotzer. It was initially thought, what is meant by the term merpeset gallery? B'nei aliyah, umay kol merpeset dekasol merpeset. The resident of a second story, and why does the Mishnah call it a gallery? It should more aptly be called, I guess, more suitable to be called a second story, because the resident is sent to the gallery when they wish to go to their apartment. Continue, God willing, tomorrow. Take the Gemara with you, so
sure.
you.
Okay, so look back to the six